This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, election acclamations. Some voters in Nova Scotia won't have a choice of municipal candidates on the ballot. March for Destiny. The family of the Mi'kmaq woman believes she died as a result of systemic racism. And unexpected retirement. Pastor Rhonda Britton is stepping down after 2 decades of service to Nova Scotians.
A little sunshine, very mild temperatures to round out the work week. Unfortunately, that trend not continuing through the weekend. I'll have your full forecast just ahead.
Good evening. Nova Scotia's municipal elections are just weeks away, and many candidates are on the campaign trail. Not all of them. A large number of council and mayor seats are acclaimed, meaning their residents won't get to cast a vote. The CBC's Haley Ryan has tonight's top story.
Mulgrave Mayor Ron Chisholm walks through town most days to chat with people and keep an eye on things.
Busy?
Every day, yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Good.
Lots of tourists still.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But he's not campaigning for the upcoming Nova Scotia municipal elections. Chisholm and all 4 members of the town council have been acclaimed, so they won't run an election at all.
I didn't think we'd have enough, so I was kind of even shocked that we did have a council.
He says it's hard to find people to run in one of the province's smallest towns, and this year, an anonymous Facebook user started attacking the council online.
I think that's probably the biggest point of nobody wanting to step forward, because who wants to put themselves in harm's way like that?
Experts say online harassment is one of the reasons people don't want to run locally, as well as heavy workloads and low voter engagement.
I do experience that on the ground, but I also know we spend a lot of time talking about it and talking about how negative it is, and that can sometimes be a self-perpetuating cycle.
For this election, 31 of the province's 49 municipalities have at least one acclamation, with several seeing multiple seats uncontested. Mulgrave is the only municipality to be completely acclaimed, but others aren't far behind. The neighbouring district of Guysborough will have 7 of its 8 councillors acclaimed.
People should run. I think, new blood, new ideas, new visions and stuff, especially from my point of view, from an African Nova Scotia point of view, and from a female point of view. We fought so hard for democracy and to have a vote.
Some experts say the Provincial Department of Municipal Affairs could put money into a proper communications campaign.
Why aren't we all getting something in our mailbox that says, hey, if you're interested in being a candidate, this is what you need to do? That's the kind of thing that you have to be proactive about.
The province says they do offer a free campaign school ahead of every municipal election. Back in Mulgrave, Mayor Chisholm is happy with the new councillors coming in and optimistic for the future.
I'd love to see more participation, yes, for sure. But like I say, each year there seems to be more and more younger people coming into the community, and if we can attract them to come forward, that would be good, because the young, you got to look at, this is their future.
Haley Ryan, CBC News, Mulgrave.
The Nova Scotia government is eyeing an empty 7-story office building in Dartmouth, saying it could be used for housing. The Marine House building is owned by Ottawa, but has been vacant for years. The federal government has initiated a disposal process that could mean a sale, gift, or transfer of control. But the Community Services Minister says he's been in talks about the building for more than a year.
This is a spot that's empty. It's a place where with some investment, we could easily have housing that's secure, and quite frankly, would do a great job. If we could potentially house every single person that's living in the encampment in that one building, and yet we can't get a commitment from the federal government on it.
The federal government says it is currently fulfilling its obligations to consult with the Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq. Then the process will continue. Fisheries and Oceans Canada says its officers have been facing increasing threats and acts of violence in recent months as they try to uphold the Fisheries Act. As Michael Gorman tells us, the statement from the government follows long-standing concerns from people in the commercial fishery and some fisheries officers themselves that they're not getting the support they need to do their job.
The statement today from DFO was all anyone from the department was willing to offer. As has become custom, the department did not make someone available for an interview. It mentions 2 incidents in September, one where officers tried to board a fishing vessel for an inspection and were denied. The other saw officers face an attempted assault before making arrests, seizing a boat, and unauthorized traps. Both incidents happened in St. Mary's Bay. While this is the first DFO has had to say about working conditions in the area, members of the commercial industry have long expressed frustration at what they see as a lack of enforcement around out-of-season lobster fishing. Although there are treaty-based fisheries happening in the St. Mary's Bay area, it's also alleged that there's activity that does not follow the rules. Meanwhile, some fisheries officers have been off the job, citing concerns about workplace safety and a lack of support from the federal department. While DFO hasn't said much publicly on the matter, provincial politicians have. Nova Scotia Fisheries Minister Ken Smith was in Ottawa yesterday for a meeting with his federal counterpart. That came after several months of asking for a face-to-face. Smith says he left that meeting disappointed.
I didn't get a commitment to add any resources to address illegal lobster fishing in Southwest Nova, which is what I've been calling for months and months. Did get a minor commitment to try and increase communication between bureaucrats, but that does nothing to enforce illegal lobster harvesting, which is the crux of this issue.
The federal minister has also had little to say publicly. Diane Leboutlier's office issued a statement after yesterday's meeting that said she shares the concern about illegal activity and violence in the fishery. But as she has before, she called on the province to crack down on illegal cash sales. The statement said DFO has placed significant resources in the area to fight illegal fishing. On Wednesday, federal fisheries officers seized $100,000 worth of lobster from a pound in Shelburne County. That investigation continues. Smith and members of the commercial sector, meanwhile, say Ottawa needs to do more to protect the province's most lucrative natural resource. Michael Gorman, CBC News, Halifax.
All right, we've got Jay in again for Ryan, and boy, what a beautiful fall day we had today.
Yeah, I want to check with Ryan on his lottery numbers now, because man, oh man, did he ever pick a nice stretch of weather to be off. My goodness, we saw temperatures up high teens, even over 20 this afternoon. May not have been as quite as sunny as what we saw yesterday, but still decent amount of sunshine. Temperatures are very nice. Clouds increasing, and they will continue to increase this evening. That wind becoming fairly light as well, and that means we do have the chance for some fog patches to develop late this evening overnight, and they could linger into tomorrow morning. So fog at the surface. Clouds will likely be overcast to mostly cloudy above us as well to start the day tomorrow, and then late morning into the afternoon. It's not necessarily going to be steady rain through the day, but we will see clouds with off and on showers possible across not just the HRM, but across Nova Scotia through the day tomorrow. Can't rule out maybe South Shore region late afternoon by early evening as we get into the HRM. A few breaks of sunshine as that sky will be clearing up partially at times during the day, but temperature-wise still above seasonal, just not the perfect combination of weather that we saw today. And to be fair, Thursday was pretty nice as well.
Indeed. All right, we'll talk to you soon, Jay.
You got it.
Family and friends of a Mi'kmaq woman who died last year held a memorial walk in downtown Halifax this afternoon. They're calling for change after they say Destiny Tony died due to systemic racism in the healthcare system.
Say her name!
The 22-year-old died last summer from fungal meningitis. Her family says her Indigenous identity led to neglect by the doctors who treated her, and hospital staff didn't conduct the proper tests that could have identified the meningitis earlier and possibly saved her life.
She always brightened every situation, too. I ain't lying to you.
She really did. She really did. And she really, this is a type of thing that she would have set up. She really stood up for what mattered, her people. She was very involved in her community, helped the elderly. She was just an amazing person who didn't deserve any of this.
The memorial walk was held on the National Day of Action for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Well, the province is running behind schedule with its updated school code of conduct policy. Reporters were told in June that a draft would be ready by the end of September, but the education minister says it's still in the works. Becky Drouin says the department has been consulting unions representing educators and school staff. She couldn't say what the updated policy will entail, but says safety will be a priority.
We have had lots of discussions with folks who are providing feedback around the need to prioritize holding with fidelity a couple of key principles that live within our education system. And so that is holding with fidelity every student's right to an education alongside every other student and every staff's right to have safe spaces.
But the president of CUPE Nova Scotia says they've been left out of the process and is considering its members experience the brunt of the violence incidents at schools. They should have a seat at the table. Finance Minister Alan McMaster says he's weighing new information he received from one of the authors of an expert report on the province's wine sector. Members of the farm wine industry walked away from a working group with the government last week in protest of a support offer. Although funding from farm wineries would have increased, it would also be more money for commercial bottlers. McMaster received a letter from Acadia University business professor Donna Sears that explains the government offer was not in line with the report recommendations. McMaster says he and the Premier hope to meet with industry representatives to find a way forward. Following 2 decades of service to Nova Scotians, Pastor Rhonda Britton is retiring. The announcement came as a shock to members of the congregation of New Horizons Baptist Church and to many others in the African Nova Scotian community. Pastor Britton has been instrumental in many community initiatives, including the expansion and renaming the church, formerly Cornwallis Street Baptist. And here is some of her conversation today with Information Mornings' Portia Clark.
When I came at first, I was planning to be here for 3 years in New Glasgow. That I signed a contract with them for 3 years, and when my 3 years were up, I said, okay, it doesn't feel like I'm finished with my work here. And so I stayed there for 2 more years until I felt certain in my spirit that it was okay to go. And I thought I was going to go back home or to the U.S., you know. And the Lord said, no, you're going to Halifax. Yeah.
You have unfinished work or new work to begin.
New work to begin.
And you've been part of a lot of advocacy and very involved in the African Nova Scotian community and communities here. Why was that important to you, or how did it become important to you?
It's always been important to me, Portia. The experience that I have with church is that we get involved in community. Those are the churches that I grew up in. We never ignore what's going on outside of the building, and the gospel is supposed to be spread to people outside of the walls, right? And you do that mostly by the way that you live and the way that you advocate for people in terms of trying to make sure that everyone has what they need. You know, you seek justice and equity in all aspects of people's lives. And so it's always been the kind of DNA for me. And when I got here, you know, I found this church to be a community-minded church that was interested in that same kind of work. So it was a really good relationship for us.
And how do you feel that you have left a mark or made a mark with the community or made a difference? How do you see that reflected back to you as you're at this time of, you know, sort of stock taking, I suppose?
You know, I really don't ever give it much thought, or I should say I hadn't really given it much thought. It's other people who say to me what a mark that I've made in the community, or how they feel about the work that I've done here. And especially a lot of that has come out since this announcement. And people feeling like you're a part of this community. How can you leave? I got a note just yesterday from a dear friend who said, say it ain't so. This is your home. This is your community. This is your church. And that's a person who's not in my community or in my church, but feels like this city and the work that I've done here has been worth something. So a lot of those messages come now. I think on a day-to-day basis, you just do what you need to do. And you're not really, at least I'm not really thinking about, oh, this is going to be a legacy or, you know, something like that. I'm just doing what I feel called to do.
And Pastor Britton has decided her last service at New Horizons Baptist will be this Christmas. And there's the view from our harbor cam on this Friday night. We've got Jay back next with the full weather forecast. We'll see you on the other side of the break. All right, Jay, so pretty quiet weather around here, but you've got your eyes on the tropics as well.
Yeah, I've heard some chatter online, some concerns over another major hurricane in the Atlantic, so I just wanted to put some minds at ease. Not that this won't play a role in our weather, because we will see that developing area of low pressure that brings us some showers and periods of rain over the weekend. Some of that energy does get pulled to the east, and that is because we have a very strong storm out over the Atlantic in Kirk, a major hurricane, sustained winds over 220 kilometers per hour. But I wanted to put minds at ease because staying well out to sea, well away from Atlantic Canadian waters, and keeping an eye on Leslie as well, now a tropical storm expected to become a hurricane. This is through Tuesday into next week, by the way, but you can see also well away from Atlantic Canadian waters. So 2 storms out in the Atlantic. There is an area of concern developing in the Gulf of Mexico as well. We'll keep an eye on, but at the moment, nothing that's looking to move into Atlantic Canadian waters. Kirk, a powerful one, but you can see heading in an easterly direction. Not really an issue for us here in Atlantic Canada. All right, so looking at our daytime highs today, picture perfect for man, oh man, when I say picture perfect, I mean not record-breaking, not oppressive, but looking at above seasonal temperatures with decent conditions for our first Friday of October today. Temperatures were up between 18 and 21 degrees for most areas. A little cooler in a few spots as we look to Parsboro, up at 16 degrees. Still not too shabby. So we've been seeing breaks of sunshine with those clouds increasing through the second half of the day today, and those clouds will continue to increase through the evening hours. And we'll see generally overcast conditions above us through the overnight hours tonight. At the surface, very good chance for some dense fog patches as well to bring us into your Saturday morning. Cloudy to start the day with some patchy fog through the morning hours, likely lifting to overcast conditions for most of Nova Scotia. But as we look to more western areas and southern areas, you start to get into the showers in the morning, likely holding off until we get into the afternoon for more central and eastern parts of the province, and that includes up into Cape Breton. There's that area of low pressure that will be dissipating into Sunday, which could see breaks of sunshine with periods of light rain or showers. And the few pockets of more moderate rain could be possible where amounts exceed 10 or over 20 millimeters. Most areas well below warning criteria, but just know that there is some uncertainty with amounts, and locally there could be some more moderate showers at times for your Saturday and into your Sunday as well. So some rain, not a bad thing. After very dry conditions the last few months, we could use some wet weather. Just unfortunate timing with that chance into our first weekend of October after such a lovely wrap to the work week. So overnight outlook tonight, we'll watch for that sky to become overcast and mainly cloudy for eastern areas, but a good chance of some fog patches developing at the surface as well. Temperatures between 10 and 13 degrees for most areas through the overnight hours tonight. A few spots inland, low-lying, or even at elevation could be a smidge cooler as well. Very light winds, so that's why we have that risk of some fog. Into tomorrow, the wind stays fairly calm. I'm not ruling out a few breaks of sunshine at times, but mainly cloudy to overcast with off and on showers and a few pockets of more moderate rain possible through the day. Temperatures still well above that seasonal average, though, and that trend will continue with that chance of wet weather through the weekend. As we look into next week, though, we will see a general cooling trend. Daytime highs getting back to around, even slightly below seasonal, possible towards the end of next week, heading into the all-important Thanksgiving weekend. So we'll keep our eye on that one.
Sweater weather indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. Coming up, Israel launched more airstrikes in the south of Lebanon following an overnight assault targeting Hezbollah's new leader. And I catch up with outgoing Mayor of Halifax, Mike Savage, to talk about his tenure in office. That's our newsmaker after the break. After 12 years, Mike Savage's term as mayor is winding down. Voters will pick a new mayor later this month. I'm here at City Hall with Mike Savage. So I see you're packing up, getting ready to move on. How are you feeling?
I feel very good. I feel that it was the right decision for me, and I think it'll be a fine decision for the city as well.
Any highlight over these 12 years that really sticks out for you?
Well, there's a number of things that were big. For me, taking on major projects like the Cogswell Interchange has been important. Halifax, which is our environment plan, climate action plan, which is really important, I think, for cities to undertake. Ours is one of the best in the country, if not in the world. The growth of the city has been remarkable. We've added, probably 100,000 people. We've become more diverse. We've become younger. Our average age has gone down. There aren't many that can say that. And then some of the initiatives with the First Nation community on reconciliation, with the African Nova Scotian community, with the Road to Economic Prosperity. There's a whole host of things, and it's hard to pick one out over the other. But overall, I just say I feel like the city's stronger, more vibrant than it was, and a lot of people played a role in that.
Well, you talk about the growth of the city. We're seeing thousands of people come into HRM every year. How can the city catch up with housing and other services that are needed?
Well, we can do it. I mean, I'd rather have the challenges of growth. In terms of housing writ large, there's hundreds of thousands of units that are ready to be built if the market is suitable and if we can keep interest rates down. You asked about highlights. I mean, certainly one of the challenges has been the homelessness, and that's different. People have to understand housing is an issue writ large, but homelessness is an issue. I think every mayor in the country would tell you that that's one that just gnaws away at you. And I think there's some good things happening with the province and ourselves now working together on finding some solutions, but that's been a challenge.
Now, back in 2021, you came under fire for the way the city handled the evictions at the old Halifax Library, not too far from here. Given hindsight, what would you have done differently? I don't know what we would have done. Knowing what we knew, I think there's not a lot we could have done differently. But we know now there wasn't enough housing for people that needed that support. And the challenge was it also, to some extent, broke faith with community organizations that are out there dealing with the homeless. So, on the other hand, the recent report on the encampments that got some attention praised the city for what we've done to treat people with respect and to try to house people. So you could always look at things a little bit differently, but with the information we had at that point in time, I think councillors in particular looked at it and said, this is the time to do this for the betterment of the whole community. But with the information you have now, would you have done it differently? Well, if we had known that there wasn't a place for everybody to go, yes. We wouldn't have done that. We had looked at moving on breaking up those encampments a few months earlier, and I didn't think that there was enough information there to tell us that we were ready for that. We didn't. But it was in a transition between provincial governments as well, housing being a provincial responsibility. So there's probably things every day that I would do a little bit differently if I could. Now, you've been a federal politician, a municipal leader. Any politics still left in your blood? Well, I love politics, and I love public life. I love being mayor. I love being mayor. To this day, I enjoy the job. But I think there comes a time when you have to say, for me, public life's changed. And, maybe I'm old school a little bit. I don't like this in-your-face style of politics. I think as a council, we've done really well to work together and avoid a lot of that. When I was elected, there was a lot of complaints from people saying that council couldn't work together. But we've worked together. And disagreement is as important as agreement if you do it correctly. And so I really appreciate the work that my colleagues have done in council. Well, what is next for you then? Well, I'm going to the Mooseheads game tonight. I'm dropping the puck tonight. I'm looking forward to that. Anything longer term than that? Well, I'm looking forward to the Thunderbirds coming back again. There's a lot of things on the go. For me, in deciding, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to do something else. There's a number of things that I'm looking at that I just have to decide among, and I'll do that, and people will know before too long, I'm sure. Well, what is your advice for the next person to sit in that chair? To have ambition. You've got whoever it is, you have councillors that you have to work with. They don't work for you as mayor. I never, ever assumed that councillors worked for me. They didn't report to me. We worked together.
And I think whoever the next mayor is, have ambition and use political capital to do big things. You know, it's fine to, as a city, we have to fix potholes and we have to cut grass, but think of some bigger things. You know, back in 2014, 2 years after I became mayor, and Ray Ivany came out with his report on the future of this province. And when your future says blatantly, now or never, an urgent call to action, whether that's Ray Ivany or whether that's your family doctor, you better pay attention to that. And we've changed a lot as a city. We've grown, we've gotten better and stronger. We have challenges that come with that, and we can knock them down. And whoever the next mayor is, whoever she or he is, I'll be in their corner.
All right, well, thanks for your time and best of luck with whatever you do next.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Artists of all types have been hitting the stages across Halifax for Prismatic Arts Festival, a showcase of Indigenous artists and artists of color. One of those stars is Ibe Ananaba. Originally from Nigeria, he's now living in Halifax and pushing creative boundaries. He uses anything that can make a mark and turns it into works of art. The CBC's Katie Jackson met up with him as he set up for his show.
I believe everyone has the obligation to contribute something to the society, right? So we could have 4 of these here, right? Okay. My name is Ibe Ananaba, full name Ibe Abuchi Ananaba. I'm an artist, a multidisciplinary artist. I enjoy visual storytelling. My practice spans studio art practice. I love to experiment with materials. I have a background in advertising as an art director. I'm a graphic artist. I'm a muralist. My art is for people. Hence, you see me doing lots of figurative work. Grew up in a city called Aba in Abia State, southeastern part of Nigeria. Growing up in Aba was an interesting experience. Aba is an industrial city, very commercial, and I grew up in the midst of people within the fashion trade. The late 80s, 1990s had a big impact in my art because I just love the movement of that era, the fashion, the music. If I'm correct, from age 3, that early was when I saw my brother draw comic characters. Ever since then, laying my hand, toying with anything that could make a mark. For me, it's about creating an experience. I'm always in search to tell my own truth. A process could be mount your canvas and here is your palette. You first of all mix your colors. You take your color, then onto canvas. I can decide to disregard that and press my colors on canvas and work. Seeing this body of work in this Joseph Strug Hall creates, along with new pieces, it gives another kind of feel, right? I did a series of... I am going to be looking at the works, looking at how people react to the works, looking at how they're having dialogue with the works, and I'm sure I'm going to get, derive some ideas, to push what I'm doing, to create either a new series. Like I said, for me, it's always ongoing.
Oh, that's great. Coming up, justice. After 50 years of waiting, an Indigenous man in Manitoba is exonerated for a murder he did not commit. Welcome back. Israel says it has struck another key Hezbollah target as its bombardment of Lebanon continued. And there are unconfirmed reports that the expected successor to the Hezbollah leadership has been killed. Trent Murray reports from Tel Aviv.
Well, the IDF has confirmed it did launch a series of airstrikes on southern Beirut overnight. They say they were targeting the intelligence headquarters of the Hezbollah militant group. And they also say that during those strikes, they killed a senior Hezbollah leader who was responsible for the group's communications. Now, we are also tracking some reports from the New York Times and Axios, which suggest there was another target in those strikes, Hasham Safiuddin. Now, this was a Hezbollah leader who was slated to replace Hassan Nasrallah as the leader of Hezbollah after, of course, the former leader was killed in an earlier airstrike last week. Now, we've not had any comment from either the IDF or Hezbollah about those claims. Away from Beirut, we are also seeing Israel increase its intensity on the ground and expanding. It's calling up additional reinforcements with 105 villages now in the south under evacuation orders as people try to flee the fighting. One key route they were taking to try and get out was crossing a border post between Syria and Lebanon, but Israel has confirmed it has now bombed that post because it says it was being used by Iran to smuggle weapons into Lebanon. The Lebanese government is saying because of that bombing, the road is now closed and people are fleeing across the border on foot. Yoav Gallant, the defence minister here, visiting troops in the north earlier today, said, quote, Israel still has a few surprises up its sleeve for Hezbollah. Trent Murray for CBC News, Tel Aviv.
Israel still hasn't responded to Iran's attack in which it fired about 180 missiles at targets inside Israel. But Iran's supreme leader commented on the conflict in a rare public appearance today, leading prayers in Tehran. Crystal Gomansing reports on what he had to say.
Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei called on Arabs and Muslims to unite. He said Iran will not procrastinate nor act hastily to carry out its duty. In his roughly 40-minute address before Friday prayers, he described Tuesday's ballistic missile attack on Israel as legal and legitimate, saying that it will be done again in the future if it is necessary. He also talked about the Hamas-led attacks on Israel on October 7th, describing it as a legitimate act. 1,200 people were killed in that incursion and more than 200 people taken hostage. He also paid tribute to Hezbollah's former leader Hassan Nasrallah. In fact, the last time he gave this sort of address and performed Friday prayers was back in January 2020, following the assassination of another key figure, this time a member of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Qasem Soleimani. In his address, not only did he call for Arabs and Muslims to unite, he said that the resistance would not end just because the leaders are being killed. And he said that everyone should, quote, strap the belt of defense from Afghanistan to Yemen, from Iran to Gaza and Lebanon. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
Prime Minister Trudeau is in France to take part in the Francophonie Summit, which brings together leaders of French-speaking countries. Trudeau was greeted by the Secretary General of the organization, as well as the French president and his wife. Trudeau is taking part in a discussion today on artificial intelligence, but the Middle East will be high on the agenda at the two-day meeting. Lebanon is part of the Francophonie, and Canadian and Lebanese officials are scheduled to meet to discuss the conflict there. The latest version of the COVID-19 vaccine is now available across Canada. Seniors are getting priority access and people with underlying medical conditions. But as Mike Crawley reports, the challenge now for health officials is persuading Canadians to get another shot.
Fresh out of the box, the latest COVID-19 vaccine has just arrived at this Toronto pharmacy.
We've had a lot of people ask about it and are on our waiting list.
The updated formula targets the strain of the virus that's most dominant in Canada right now.
You're the first one to get the new one here. Oh, cool.
A big question for this latest vaccination campaign: how many Canadians will roll up their sleeves one more time?
This can fall off of people's radars as being something that's still important.
This doctor wants you to know why you should get the updated COVID shot.
The vaccines that we've had in the past may not be good matches for what's going on right now. And then the other side of it is your immunity after being vaccinated or even after a natural infection will wane over time.
With COVID vaccinations now in their 4th year, the current campaign has a different tone. Gone are the mass vaccine clinics and the widespread advertising urging everybody to get the jab.
If the government's put in minimal effort to try and get people engaged, there'll be very, very low uptake of COVID vaccine in general.
This year, Ottawa promises an advertising campaign targeting the people at highest risk.
I think shifting our focus to those individuals that we really want to protect from severe outcomes is a recognition of we're in a different place right now.
Seniors are among those at highest risk. Last year, only 2/3 of them got a COVID shot.
7 deaths a day in Canada from COVID still. It's around. It's endemic. It is not going to go away. Our future will be adapted yearly shots for flu and COVID.
Anything to keep me healthy.
If you aren't in the higher risk categories, you'll have to wait until late October before you can get the new COVID vaccine. And by that time, the flu shot will be available too. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Montreal police have launched an investigation into a fire in a centuries-old building that left at least 2 people dead and others injured. Flames ripped through the building in the city's historic district. About 125 firefighters were dispatched to the 3-story building. It had a hostel on the upper floors and a restaurant on the ground floor where the fire started early this morning. Dozens of local residents were forced from their homes and are receiving Red Cross assistance. Police say the fire is suspicious. A building under the same ownership was the scene of another fatal fire in Old Montreal last year. A Manitoba man has been exonerated in a grisly murder 50 years after he was sent to prison for it. Clarence Woodhouse was one of 3 men convicted, and he was the last one to have that conviction overturned. Cameron McIntosh has the story.
Manitoba's Chief Justice is calling Clarence Woodhouse's 1974 conviction for murder a miscarriage of justice, agreeing he was wrongfully convicted. Woodhouse, now in his 70s, stepped out of court in Winnipeg today with his lawyers and family, holding a black T-shirt saying innocent, along with a written statement from the court.
Shows he's being acquitted.
Woodhouse served 12 years for the stabbing murder of a man in downtown Winnipeg. Innocence Canada brought forward evidence Winnipeg police fabricated a written confession in English that Woodhouse, who spoke mostly Saulteaux at the time, did not understand. This summer, the federal justice minister ordered a new trial, agreeing evidence suggested a miscarriage of justice likely occurred. The Crown concluded the original evidence wouldn't support a retrial. In court, the Chief Justice apologized to Woodhouse and called him innocent.
What did you think of what the judge said to you today?
Yeah, it was all right there. Yeah, pretty good.
And what did you say to him?
I told him I was I thank him there.
The Crown, Ms. Jules, and we, and indeed the Chief Justice, all acknowledged that there was racism inherent from the investigative stage, the prosecutorial stage, and the judicial stage.
I'm very sorry for what happened. Manitoba's premier met with Woodhouse. An apology was also read in the legislature.
We'll never be able to give back the past that was robbed of this person and the others in a similar situation. But given what we know now, we can take steps to do right.
2 other Indigenous men also convicted in this murder have also been acquitted. They're suing the city of Winnipeg, the province of Manitoba, and the federal government, claiming the police and the Crown colluded against them. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The city of Charlottetown has still not made a decision about what to do with its statue of John A. Macdonald. It's been sitting in storage since 2021, but now some say it should be displayed again, but in a different way. Nicola McLeod reports.
It's been more than 3 years since a bronze sculpture of Canada's first Prime Minister sat here. It was removed after more than a year of controversy and conversation about what reconciliation looks like here in the city that calls itself the birthplace of Canada.
Do I regret that we removed it? For peace and good government, I think it was the right choice.
The statue now sits here in this box on the grounds of the city's public works buildings. Council had previously said it would make a decision about what to do with it in the future, but that has not happened.
We put that on the shelf, we put it on hold, but down the road, if let's say the provincial government decides to go with a provincial history and natural science museum, I think that could be part of it to, again, explain the full history.
John A. was vandalized no less than 5 times between the spring of 2020 and 2021. He had red paint dumped on him, yellow paint, a red handprint across his face. Actions of protest against the man widely recognized as the main architect of the residential school system. The mayor says council also chose to remove another portrait of John A. Macdonald that hung in City Hall.
Both pieces of art, we wanted to ensure that there was protection from any damage or any possible or potential damage to them.
Throwing him in a closet somewhere is just like, putting in a closet like what happened, right? He was a part of that.
The chief of the Lennox Island First Nation also wants to see the statue on display again. Like the mayor, she hopes it can go to an exhibit that tells the full story.
We shouldn't be hiding that history. I think that that statue could go into a museum, and then it could have like what he was, what he did, but also the bad things need to be there, like, how it affected the First Nations. I think that should be there. And I think we should be able to look at him and see him. That's the guy who did that.
The chief acknowledges that First Nations would need to be consulted before that could happen, since many find it painful to look at public depictions of figures like John A. Officials with the province and the Museum and Heritage Foundation say no conversations have taken place around taking ownership of the statue. Nicola McLeod, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Reusable grocery bags were introduced to cut the amount of plastic in the environment. But there's a problem, and it's a problem that's, piling up. Sophia Harris explains.
They were supposed to be a solution.
I think we have over 1,000.
But reusable bags have their own problems.
Go to the store. Oops, I forgot my reusable bag, but I tell myself, that's fine. I'll just buy some more.
Megan Bishop says she and 2 roommates recently tossed nearly 200 bags. Now they've got more.
I counted 32 and I gave up. I do definitely think the retailers should be putting in more effort in finding a solution.
Part of the onus is on shoppers to bring their bags. But environmentalists say retailers also need to do their part by adopting circular programs, like the one at this parcel pickup service. Customers return reusable bags bought here and get a rebate. Reuse company GoTo washes the bags for resale.
Some of these bags that you might be seeing in here might actually be previously loved and used.
No major Canadian grocer offers a circular bag program in stores. GoTo's co-founder suggests that's because, in part, such programs cut into retailers' profits from selling reusable bags.
Reusable bags are a huge, easy profit revenue generator.
Big grocers Sobeys and Loblaws did not respond to requests for comment. Walmart says its 33-cent blue bag is not a profit driver and that customers can send these back to be recycled or donated to charity. But that program may become obsolete as Walmart is phasing these out in favor of recycled paper bags.
But it's still single use, and it still takes energy to recycle that paper. Feels like they're really taking the easy way out rather than putting the time into building a real circular system.
This environmentalist says the only way to get all retailers to adopt circular solutions is for governments to mandate it. But that could take time, as Canada's plastic bag ban is being contested in court. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's main stock index gained almost 200 points today, led by strength in energy, tech, and base metals, while U.S. markets also rose. Here's a look at the markets as we head to break. All right, Jay, so we've got some wet weather coming for the weekend, but we really do need it, right?
Yeah, we've had very dry, month of September, August, very dry conditions across all three maritime provinces. So rain is a very beneficial thing. It's not bad. It's just after a couple of days of some sunshine, some milder temperatures, kind of hope to see that kind of move into the weekend forecast for the trip to the apple orchard, the pumpkin patch, those fall things we love to do. We are expecting overcast conditions with some fog patches to develop tonight. Into tomorrow morning, those showers will be pushing in from the west, and it's not necessarily steady rain through the day, but a chance of off and on showers with a few pockets of more moderate rain through the afternoon and even into the evening hours. If we see a break or two of sunshine, wouldn't be surprised, but it also will be very fleeting, much like the shower chance for tomorrow. And we'll see a bit more of the sun breaks, I think, in the forecast later in the day on Sunday, but the shower chance will be there off and on through the day. Raindrops are beneficial, not a bad thing. Watch for some fog to start the day tomorrow with that light wind from the south. Good chance of showers for the HRM by late morning, early afternoon. I think it'll be earlier for the South Shore region and more western areas. And then as we move into the late afternoon, that temperature again up into the mid to high teens. This is well above seasonal, but we'll keep that shower chance in and that southeasterly wind picking up, but not too blustery. We will see a more brisk wind and a cooler wind direction developing into Sunday, but those temperatures should stay above seasonal to round out the weekend as well. Amy?
Yeah, not too bad at all. All right, thank you, Jay. Well, an artist in Italy is marking the upcoming U.S. presidential election and paying tribute to his preferred candidate. It's no ordinary portrait of Kamala Harris. It covers nearly 3 hectares and was created using a tractor, tarps, and a farm field. The tarps give color to the eyes and earrings. The artist says he was inspired by Harris's quote, "Optimism is the fuel that drives every struggle we do." He's also done lead portraits of Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Pope Francis. And that's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.